All right. Good morning. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Karibuni sana. Hope everyone is well. This beautiful 26th day of November, the year of our Lord 2024. From wherever it is that you're joining us from, Karibuni sana. Hope you had a good time on the charts yesterday and also in everything else that you're doing. But we're really glad that you could join us. For the sake of guys who are new here, John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex, like we always say, is a trading unit, so it's not a one-man show. So we do have the team here. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them. Of course, on the chat box, the team will be getting back to you, but I will also be looking at the questions, of course, still in the chat box towards the very tail end of this session, but you don't really need to wait until the very end. You still can ask your questions even as the session does end up progressing on. So we're going to jump straight into it. So we'll start off with the watch list and seeing the comparison between yesterday and today. That's where we always start off. So you can see the watch list right there. Tuesday, the 26th rather. You can see what we're going to be watching out for. A couple of changes. More specifically, of course, you can see gold and silver moving to the sell side of things. The Swiss franc joining the buy side. So we will be seeing how things end up transpiring on that front. But we will start off by looking at the currency pairs that we did have yesterday that unfortunately did not make it to our watch list today. And of course, those are the CHF pairs. So we'll start off with the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. For this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have timed some buying opportunities. Can clearly see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. Also an illustration of what to expect. So in the morning price was here. I did point out that we did want to see a sign of the big boy bars showing up. Unfortunately, that didn't happen there. You can't see that the market continued to calm down. Neither could we get anything within this region that could have told us that we should have been looking for buying opportunities. And remember that we had pointed out that once the market breaks to the downside of the red SNR, then at that point in time, the buying opportunities were definitely over at that point in time. So the next one, this is the US dollar against the Swiss franc. For this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities as well. So you can see the three regions that I had pointed out. In the morning, price was here. I pointed out that it wasn't a good idea to look for the buys, especially when price was holding just beneath this region. At least we did need to see the market break to the upside of this area, at least on the pullback, maybe try see whether we could get buys. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that. And we couldn't get the buyers, reacting off this region here. You can see that they were taken out. And of course, once the market held to the downside of that red SNR, then unfortunately, there were no buying opportunities for us. So the next one, this is the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three areas there. Also an illustration of what to expect. In the morning, price was here. We're expecting the pullback to come back in within here. Hopefully get some sort of a reaction of the sellers there. But you can see that the sellers who had reacted the previous trading day, which was Friday, you can see that they had reacted aggressively, but yesterday we just couldn't get anything. The market broke to the upside, came back in during the Asian session, but unfortunately not really a currency pair that we will be trying to see whether we can trade today, considering the fact that there was some Swiss franc fundamentals that actually came out, and I will be showing you that when we look at the economic calendar, which are possibly bringing in the strength that we're seeing, and that's the reason why you're seeing like even most of this CHF pairs already showing the strength coming in. So this is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. For this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. So you can't see similar fashion with the rest of the CHFs. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the buyers coming in. So you can't see that in the morning price was here. We did expect price to come back in here and possibly get a reaction. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that. The market broke to the downside and stayed to the downside of this region here, came down within this area. These buyers right here had nothing to say, and you can't see that the market broke to the downside. So unfortunately, even for that one, there was no trading opportunity for us yesterday. So last but not least, currency pairs for review. This is the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have also gotten some buying opportunities on it. And you can see the three regions that I had pointed out, also illustrations of what to expect. In the morning, the market had just broken to the upside. But I had pointed out that we did want to see that the market go up higher, come back in to look for the buys. If not, then there was this region that we did expect maybe to get some sort of a reaction. The market came back here, but you definitely can't see that there was no reaction by the big boys. It's like they were completely not interested in this one. But like I pointed out, possibly and definitely something to do with the CHF news events that had come out. So if I show you the news events yesterday, so this news event right here, I think this one is the one that the big boys could possibly be working on or working with right now. So that's pretty much it in terms of the currency pairs that we did have for review. So we can look at a couple of screenshots that we did end up getting yesterday. So we'll start off with this one. This one is from Bravin. I think this one was from the day before, which I think was Friday, but I sent it in yesterday morning. So I think we'll still give him a shout out and do justice. So this one, selling opportunity that you got, consider the stop loss is already at your point of entry, which is okay as the market was coming down. So this was really good. So quite an aggressive entry, but I don't know. Hopefully you got it on the pullback, especially the market or when the market pulls back in within this region here. That's when you got it. And that was really good. So shout out to Bravin for that and keep up the good work. So we also did get a screenshot from George Shegen. If you're watching, shout out to you as well. So this is on gold. So I can see that you got a selling opportunity somewhere here. And I can see that your stop loss is already at your point of entry. So it's a risk-free trade, and I can see that you're just targeting somewhere within this region. I think this one was some sort of a scalp trade because I can see that you're down on the 5-minute time frame. So this was a good trade, also quite aggressive, but I can see that you did get away with it. So shout out to you for that, George. And of course, keep practicing, keep working on your trading. You can definitely see some good setups. I mean, every time we look at your screenshots, we can always see that you're doing great on the charts. So keep up the good work. So the next one, this is from Metrine. So Metrine, if you're here, if you're watching, shout out to you. This is on the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So I can see that you got a buying opportunity on this one, which was good, somewhere within this region here. As the market started to move up, I can see that your stop loss came above your point of entry, and I can see that it's quite a handful of buying opportunities there. But nonetheless, stop losses, I think, for all your trades are somewhere within this region. And I don't know where you're targeting, or I can't see your take profit actually high up within that region there. I hope the pullback didn't get you, because I know that this one did go up, and we will be looking at it because I got a similar trade. But unfortunately, I know that there were some whipsaws within this region here on the pullback. If that didn't get you and the market went all the way high up, then that was really good. But in terms of entry, that was really, really good. So shout out to you for that, Metrine, and of course, keep up the good work. So last but not least, we did get a screenshot from Mark Ingori. This is on the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. Can't see that you got two good selling opportunities, stop losses for your trades somewhere within this region right here. As the market was coming down, in any case, even your stop losses could have been down within this region here, but good to see that you got a sell within there, which was very good, and an addition when the market came back in and held within this region here. So this was also some very, very good trading. So shout out to you for that, Mark Ingori, and of course, keep up the good work. So shout out to Bravin, George, Metrine, Mark for sending in those screenshots. Remember, guys, if you do get any trades, whether good or bad, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details are there in the video description, and at least we will give you the much needed shout out. And also, if we do see something that you need to change, then we'll also give you that advice as well. So shifting gears into matters today. So since we're here on the economic calendar, I guess we can even start off here. So you can't see Tuesday. This is what we're going to be looking out for. So there's already been some year news events which are showing that maybe there could be some weakness coming in, but although the ends are showing strength, so we'll see how that ends up going. But you can see that during the London session, there isn't that much that's going to be going on. But during the US session, you can see that there's going to be a handful of news events that are going to be coming out. So I guess there's going to be a lot of movement on the USDs. Later on, you can see that there's also some card news, number of 3 stars that you can see right there for the USDs. So I guess we possibly, hopefully, will continue to see some USD strength coming in. So already the USDs have been showing some strength. So let's see what happens if that strength is going to be continuing throughout the rest of the day. So this is going to be our watch list for today. So we'll mix and match up the sells versus the buys. So the euro and the Canadian dollar versus everything else, or the currency pairs on the buy side. Then we'll finish off with gold, silver, the NAS 100, and the US 30. So we'll start off with the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can't really see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out, also illustrations of what to expect. So in the morning, price was here. I had pointed out that it was better to wait for price to break to the downside of this region to look for the sells. And you can't see that, unfortunately, the market didn't do that. It bounced off this region to the upside and continued to rally up. And these sellers within here had nothing to say about it, because you can't see that the market came in nice and easy and slow. But unfortunately, we couldn't get a reaction, from the big sellers, just to tell us that the big boys were interested in this one. So unfortunately, there was no trade for us on this one. And you can't see that the market broke to the upside of this region and actually sat on top of this region right here and continued to move up higher. So it's only today during the Asian session that you can't see that there's some sort of a sign that the big boys could potentially end up coming in. So we will be watching out for these three areas right here. So hopefully today we will get something, unlike yesterday. So you can see that the market went up, sellers came down, buyers within this region seem to be somehow struggling. So I'm hoping that they could possibly push the market to the upside, even in their struggle, possibly tap that region right there. And if we do get the market coming back in within this region here, maybe we could possibly end up getting some good selling opportunities. Definitely watching out for this region right here, and also watching out. I mean, you could target all the way down here, but you definitely will need to do some sort of money management within this region here. So let's see what happens on this one. But also remember, in case the market breaks above this region to the upside and holds above this area, then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trade for us on the euro against the Australian dollar. So just make sure that you watch out for that. So the next one, this is the euro against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. So in the morning, price was here. I was expecting price to spike to the upside, come back in, hold, then maybe come down. But you can see that the sellers first came down, bounced off this region, but they came up so aggressive. And you can see they came back in and actually challenged this region, did some sort of a probe within here. So some sort of, let's say more or less the same illustration that I had more or less pointed out, but on a much bigger scale. So the market went up, came down, somehow started to hold within this region, but it's only today during the Asian session that the market did actually end up coming to the downside. So you can see that the sellers came down aggressive. The buyers have retaliated. They don't seem to be coming in quite aggressive, which is okay. But the question is, will the sellers still be interested to push this one to the downside? So we'll have to wait and see and read the story of what happens, especially when the market comes back in somewhere as close as possible within here. Or if you're really good at reading the story on a smaller time frame, especially if you're a real sniper on the charts, the 3 minute, 1 minute, you possibly could find that the market could turn around within this region here. Because when the market broke this area to the downside, came back in within here, maybe just needed to tap within this region. But based on how the buyers have come up, we definitely need to see a slowdown of the buyers and the big sellers coming in before we do end up attempting any sales to come down. So let's see what happens on this one. But more or less, price is back in within the same region where it was yesterday. So it's done a full cycle, pulled around within this region, but it's more or less contained within the same regions that we're watching out for yesterday. So that's the reason why the levels are the same and the story is more or less the same. So remember, in case the market breaks above this region to the upside, the red SNR, and holds above it, then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the euro against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can't see the three regions that I had pointed out, also illustrations of what we're possibly anticipating. So the market was here. Maybe the market could have come up within this region. I was really eyeing to see whether I could have gotten sales there. Or maybe the market broke and held beneath this region to the downside, maybe could have looked for a sell. So you can see that the market turned around, but unfortunately we couldn't get the hold. So there was some sort of a probe here, but to the downside, and the market went up, held within this region. But it's only today, during the Asian session, that the market has actually calmed down and calmed down quite aggressively. So for this one, the levels are the same as well. So, I mean, in as much as the market has moved, but it's not really moved far and beyond the regions that we're watching out for yesterday, which means that the story is more or less the same. So the market has come down, bounced off this region right here, did even some sort of a probe, and it's holding to the upside, which means that there's a possibility we could find the buyers continuing to rally up. Maybe price might just come back in within this region here, and you could find some very good selling opportunities, possibly will be happening off this region here. because you can't see that when the market broke to the downside, we didn't get that retest back in within this region here. So there's a high probability price might just come back in within here for a retest. If that happens, then we could find some good selling opportunities happening off there. And of course, I mean, if we do get some sales there, you could manage somewhere within this region. And I think it's a very good idea for you to manage at that point because you're not very sure what might happen when price gets there. But at least you could also end up, I mean, targeting all the way down here, which means if you do get an opportunity to scale in somewhere within here, especially for the guys who are very good at trading and have some very good experience on the charts, then you could possibly end up scaling in somewhere within this region here, and you could come down with the market within this region here. So make sure that you watch out for that. But of course, right now, let the buyers do their thing. We never know. Maybe they could also end up going all the way to that region at the top. So just make sure that you also do watch out for that. And of course, like we keep on pointing out from time to time, watch out for the times as well. So 10, which is the Frankfurt market open, 11, which is the London market open. We have 4 p.m. Of course, and I'm talking about East African time. So 4 p.m. is the US session open, and 5:30, which is the New York Stock Exchange open. So watch out for those times as well. So the next one, this is the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can't see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out. In the morning, price was here. We did expect price to come down, maybe. So the sellers showed up, but we did want to see whether the buyers were gonna struggle rather within this region before we execute some sales. But you can't see that the buyers didn't quite struggle. And you can't see that they took out this region to the upside and the market actually held above here and continued to rally up. And we just couldn't get anything, to tell us to look for sales within here. Because you can see that even within this region, as much as the sellers did show up and the buyers seem to have struggled, at one point, you can see that they came in quite aggressively and actually took out this region to the upside. So the market possibly needed to spike maybe higher than this. And you can see that these sellers within here are more or less still in control. I think maybe the big boys possibly needed a much better price. So with this spike, when the market went up, definitely lots of retail traders were definitely incited in terms of looking for the buying opportunities. And you can see that the market has come back in, which means that we do have a massive probe within this region right here. So hopefully, let's see, we can't get the market possibly bouncing off this region here because we have some sort of an SNR within this area. Get the market bouncing off that region, possibly just come back in somewhere as close as possible within here, possibly reading the story of what happens within there. I think there could be some very good selling opportunities within this region here. Watching out for this region there. And of course, it could easily end up targeting all the way down there and scaling in if you're really good at trading. So watch out for that. Watch out for the red SNR as well. The market breaks above that region, then unfortunately, there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the euro against the Great British Pound. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have also gotten sales as well. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting maybe price to break to the downside and hold for us to look for sales. That didn't happen. So the market bounced off this region, came up. Unfortunately, there was nothing to tell us to look for sales here. Neither was there anything to tell us to look for selling opportunities within this region right here. So for this one, let's see if we will be lucky to get some opportunities today. So these are the 3 areas we will be watching out for. So still watching out for sales, but we've adjusted the areas accordingly. The sellers came down, the buyers have retaliated, the market has just bounced off this region, it's coming up. Maybe it might come back up within this region here. We don't know at what point the sellers will show up. The buyers have started to show signs of weakness, but remember that that's only one part of the coin. We also need to see the party that we are with, which is the sellers, show up. In case they don't, you could easily find that the market could rally up and you could find the market back in within this region here. And I mean, if we still don't see the sellers within this region, then you could find that the market could break to the upside and continue to rally up. So for this one, let's be a bit patient. Let's see what happens, but be keen to see what happens, especially within this region right here, because you could find that maybe during the London market open, price might be back in within this region, and you could find that you could get some very good selling opportunity coming down. So let's see if the market will set itself up for the London market open. But remember, the red SNR case the market breaks above that region to the upside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So last but not least, for the euro pairs, we do have the euro against the Swiss franc. So for this one, this is a new entrant on our watch list. We'll be trying to see whether we can get some sells. You can see that yesterday the market was coming down, and I guess this has possibly something to do with Swiss franc strength. So we'll be waiting to see what happens. You can see that the pullback has already started coming in. It's coming in slow, which is good. So at least the buyers are not aggressive, but there's a possibility the market might just tap in within this region. And if it does, then you could look for sell there. Could target all the way down till wherever you want to target, but just make sure that you do manage your trade or watch out for this region here. You could easily find the market bouncing off this region right here. You don't want to be caught unawares. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But also remember the region at the top. The market could find its way there. If it does, then at least you should also be ready for that as well. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of all the euro pairs. So right now we're going to move on to the Canadian dollar pairs, and we're going to do the same. We're going to mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we'll start off with the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. And the card pairs, you will see that all of them did actually end up moving today during the Asian session. You will see these moves that did end up happening. We're expecting, the strength, or rather the weakness, to come in on the cards yesterday, but today during the Asian session, I wasn't really expecting that, but I guess the big boys in Asia are the ones who really pushed the markets. The US session and the London session yesterday didn't end up doing that much. So for this one, before we look at today, yesterday, you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out, and we're watching out for buys. So in the morning, price was somewhere within this region here. So it came down, bounced off this area, the buyers went up. That region right there reacted, the market came back down, and you can see that later on the market started taking off, but it's only during the Asian session that the market picked up a lot of steam, to push to the upside. So for this one, let's see if we can get a pullback coming in. If we do, then we could possibly try see whether we could get some buying opportunities within these areas, but also these are areas where we should be watching out to see whether we can also end up managing our trades. So let's see what happens. Right now, in terms of looking for the buying opportunities, may not really be the best of ideas because we don't know what type of reaction we could get here. But at least if the sellers do come in and let's say the market actually gives some sort of a pullback, hopefully it comes back in within this region here. I think this is not a very bad region in terms of looking for the buying opportunities. So I hope that the market pulls back, but of course, in case it doesn't and the market breaks above this region to the upside, then I guess you will have to wait and see if you can't get the market going up, then get a pullback you can't read before you actually end up looking for your buying opportunities. And that whole cycle might possibly end up taking the whole of the London session for the market to be back in within this region, maybe during the US session. So for this one, you'll just need to be a bit patient on it. But at least if the market does any of these two options, then I'm definitely going to be trying to see whether I could get some opportunities on it. But right now, based on where the price is, might not really be the best of ideas to look for that trade because, you could easily end up getting stopped out considering the fact that so many people right now are also looking to try and see whether they can get buyers because, it's very obvious. Everyone can see that the market has gone up. So the next one, this is the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, based on what happened today, it makes yesterday look quite miniature. So let me just zoom in on what happened yesterday. So yesterday, you can see, these are the three areas I had pointed out. So, and you also can see an illustration. And in the morning, price was somewhere within here. I had pointed out that it would have been best to wait and actually see the market break to the upside of this region. If it did, then at least on the pullback, could have at least attempted to get your buying opportunity somewhere within this region right here, because we're not too aware of what was going to happen within here. And you could have easily jumped in on your buy only to end up getting stuck within this region right here. So you can see that the market went to the upside, came back in within this region. When it did, actually got a buy somewhere within this region right here. And of course, I was targeting somewhere higher up within this region here. But, when the market came in within this region, I managed the trade, put stop loss. somewhere within this region. Unfortunately, this pullback got me, but unfortunately, I didn't get the re-entry, which I really wish I did. And you can see that the market did actually end up moving up quite well. So the entry was exactly here within this region right here. Market went up, managed the trade within this region, pullback. Unfortunately, I got caught on the pullback, but at least you can see that the market has gone up. Not quite sure what it could be in terms of why the cards have moved this way, but also based on the higher time frames, they do seem like, maybe the market is actually following the story based on the higher time frames. But of course, based on correlation, because it's something that, we've looked at, you can't see that it's something that's happening across the board. So I guess the big boys are definitely up to something on this one. So for this one, for today, we're still going to be trying to see whether we can get buys. At least this one has given some sort of a pullback, coming back in within this region here. So you could find maybe some buying opportunities might actually end up happening off this region here. You can see that the buyers have started to come in. But let's see if we can get those sellers slowing down within this region. And you could find that maybe the market might need to spike maybe beneath this region, come back in, hold. You could get some very good buying opportunities. You could target all the way high up within that region, which is okay, but you'll definitely need to watch out for this area, because I think true SNR could be somewhere within this region right here. So just make sure that you do watch out for that. But also remember this region at the bottom right here, it seems like it's hanging in the middle of nowhere, but I think if you look at the bigger time frame, you will see that it's a major SNR where the market has, bounced off from before. And you could find that when the market breached to the upside, unfortunately, it never retested this region. So there's a possibility we might just find the price coming back in within that region there. So just make sure that you do watch out for that. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. So you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. So in the morning price was here. I had pointed out there was also this SNR that was somewhere within this region, because the market was actually in some sort of a range, and you can't see that. So I was expecting maybe price could have just spiked within this region here, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So it seems that the sellers came in within this area here. The market went up, the buyers attempted again, the sellers came down, reached to the downside. But unfortunately, we just couldn't get the market pulling back in within that region. And you can see that the sellers pushed the market to the downside, came in within this area. Then you can see that there was a serious fight that was going on within this region before the market went to the downside. So for this one, we knew the market was going to come down. But unfortunately, getting the trade is a different story, because there was nothing really clear. So let's see if we can get something clearer today. So these are the three regions we will be watching out for. Still watching out for the selling opportunities. In terms of looking for the sells now, not the best of ideas. Definitely the whole world is looking to see whether they can get sells. Can only imagine the number of millions of traders who are in on sells within this region here, who don't know what they're signing up for. So you could find, and hopefully I do hope that the market does end up giving some sort of a pullback. So if it does come back in within this region, possibly we could get some very good selling opportunity within here, especially after the market broke to the downside, retest of that region. We'll be watching out for that. But also remember, the main sellers who are pushing down are all the way high up within that area. So you still can find that the market can actually go back all the way till within that region. So just make sure that you're on the lookout for that. So let's see what happens on this one. And I guess that's pretty much it for the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. So you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. Also an illustration of what to expect. So in the morning price was here. I was expecting the pullback, and you can see that the market fast went up, bounced off this region right here, came down. Unfortunately, just missed the region where I was looking out for the entry, I think by about a pip or so. And you can see that the market started to rally up. Fortunately, I didn't get an entry on this one, but I think Mitch did actually end up getting a very good trade on this one. So you can see he got the buy, I think somewhere within this region right here, before the market actually took off for the stars. And you can see that the market went up, which is good. Stop loss already above point of entry, which is good. So I think this was earlier today morning. So I think must have gotten the entry somewhere within this region right here. coming up about 80 pips or thereabouts. So shout out to you, Mitch, and of course, keep up the good work. So for this one for today, we're still going to be trying to see whether we can get buys. Hopefully, we will be lucky, or I will be lucky to get this trade. At least Mitch did end up representing by getting that trade, which was really good. So let's see if we can get the pullback happening on this one. If we do get the pullback coming in, and I'm really hoping the pullback comes in, but also make sure that you watch out for the rest of the card pairs, because I mean, if you do see the pullback happening on one, just have a look at the others to see if it's something to do with, the Canadian dollar pairs, or is it something to do with the NZD pairs. So, but I'm really hoping this one comes back in within here, stop out a number of bars within this region right here. Of course, when they do turn to sellers, at least the market could give us a good opportunity within this region, and we could possibly end up bouncing off this region to the upside. But also remember that there's also a possibility price can actually break to the upside of this region. If it does, then you'll still have to wait for the breach, a nice strong breach to the upside. Don't feel bad even if you're not in on that buy. At least when the market gives you a pullback, this buy right here is actually gonna be less riskier than actually attempting to actually jump in on the buy as the market is moving up. Like we always say, let the big boys do the heavy lifting. Let them do the breaking of the levels. You wait for the pullbacks. Give yourself some sort of a soft life when it comes to the charts. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three regions right there. And in the morning, price was within this region. So expecting the pullback to come in, the pullback came back in. You can see that the buyer started off extremely slow. Let me even just zoom in within this area. So you can see that the sellers came down aggressive. The buyers seemed like they retaliated quite slow, but it's only later on that they really picked up a lot of steam to push to the upside. Then you can see that the pullback couldn't come back in within here. The market fooled around within this region. And just like we've seen with the rest of the Canadian dollar pairs, you can't see that weakness that's really coming during the Asian session. So for this one, more or less the same thing as we discussed with the rest of the Canadian dollar pairs. So we do need that pullback coming in. Hopefully we get it coming back in within this region here. If we do, that would be good. And of course, we need a nice slow pullback that you can read, because if the sellers do come in aggressive, then you definitely need to end up doing a lot of reading in terms of, when the big boys start to shift the direction so that you can get that buy. So let's see what happens. Also watch out for this region at the bottom, a bit of a long shot, but in case the market comes in within that region, then just make sure that you're ready for it. So last but not least, in terms of the currency pairs, we do have the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So this one is a new entrant on our watch list, and we will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. So these are the three areas we're going to be watching out for. So let's see if these buyers can retaliate. I think it's more or less similar to the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So let's see if we can get the buyers retaliating and pushing the market up. Already you can see that they're already starting to give the sellers some sort of issues within that region. Let's see if they can hopefully push the market up back in within this region. If that happens, then at least we could possibly end up getting some good selling opportunities, maybe during the US session after the market gives us a nice pullback coming back in, within this region, maybe during the London session. So let's wait and see what happens on this one. But of course, also remember, in case the market breaks this region to the downside, and hopefully we get a nice strong breach, then we could possibly try see whether we can get a nice pullback coming in before we look for the sells. But any sells, especially when price is holding within here, or those guys who look out for breakout trades, because I know that there are many of you also here who possibly get on to such type of trades. Just know that such type of trades are very risky. It's always better to wait for the market to breach, always wait for the pullback. Like I'm pointing out, give yourself the soft life as far as the charts go. So that's pretty much it in terms of all the currency pairs. So right now we're going to move on to the indices and the commodities. So you can see that the NASDAQ 100 and the US 30 remain on the buy side. Gold and silver have decided to shift camp. So we'll start off with the NASDAQ 100. So for this one, yesterday, the bias was to try to see whether we could have gotten some buys. And you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was here. So it was either price to come back in within this region or maybe break this region to the upside. And you can see this region right here, the market broke to the upside. And for the guys who didn't wait for the pullback and the confirmation, this was a trick for them. And you can see that over here, I'm very sure a lot of people were definitely wiped out with this move coming down. So waiting for that confirmation is important. And you can see that the market just broke within that region, came back in, actually bounced off this region and came down. And right now we're more or less somewhere within this region right here. So we're still going to be watching out for the buying opportunities. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So hopefully you can end up taking note of them. So let's see what happens. Two probes within this region, which definitely tells us that there are a bunch of buyers who are possibly sitting, somewhere within this region right here. Because anytime you see probes, it means that the opposite party is definitely within this region. In as much as the sellers have attempted to come down twice and they've been shut down, then it means that most probably these buyers over here are still giving issues, but SNR is definitely within this region right here. So let's see what happens on this one. The buyers are starting to come up, but don't chase the buys. I mean, there's also a seller's region within this area here. Hopefully, let's see what type of reaction we do get off the sellers within here. And you could find that they might actually put or push the market back within this region right here, because you can see that the previous time they did react quite aggressive. You don't really want to be hitting buys when the market is just approaching that region. Your buying opportunity might be easily dead on arrival. Immediately you take the trade and you're already taking the opposite way. So just make sure that you're a bit patient. Let's see what happens. Hopefully we get a reaction off here, then I think that could be good. If not, and the market breaks above this region to the upside, maybe you could look for some small buying opportunities coming up. But I think if you're really looking for some good trades that could give you some proper risk to reward, maybe you're better off waiting for the market to break above this region to the upside, especially if you can't get the market pulling back in within here. So watch out also for the red SNR. We have adjusted it slightly higher than where we were watching out for yesterday, just incorporating this most recent story of what is happening on that one. So also make sure that you do take note of that. So the next one, this is the Dow Jones. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. Same story as today. We'll still be trying to see whether we can get buys. So these are the three areas we had yesterday. Price was somewhere within here. So you can see that it broke, held above here, went to the upside, which was okay, came back in. Just needed to be patient, bounced off this region right here. And you can see that this buy actually moved faster than this one. So you can see that the market bounced off this region, went up, sellers came in, but they couldn't come back in all the way till within here. But we have adjusted the areas. I know they're a bit wider than what we did end up having yesterday, but it's also based on the story of what's happening on the bigger time frame. So right now, let's just hope we can either get these sellers within here reacting, because we're approaching the Frankfurt and the London market open, and the market is just within some sort of a seller's region. So if we do get some sort of a reaction, we might get the price just coming back in within here, and I hope it does. I think some good buys could be here. If that doesn't happen, then I guess we'll have to wait and see if we can get a breach and a hold of this region to the upside before we look for the buyers. So you could possibly end up getting something like that, which is almost something similar to this region right here yesterday. So if we get a repeat of that, at least looking for the buys here, which is like looking for the buys somewhere here, that might be okay. So it's either one of the two scenarios, but in terms of looking for buys now, I best advise you possibly don't do that to yourself. So the next one, this is silver. So for silver, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities, and you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. But remember that silver, gold, the US 30, and the NAS 100, these ones are purely technical. So we can always shift biases based on where the price is in regard to the red SNR. So the red SNR was somewhere within here. And of course, since we're following something called zones, for as long as we're holding above that, we should be looking for buys. So we're expecting possibly price to have possibly reacted off here and get a nice reaction, and maybe the pullback coming in slow for us to look for the buys. Unfortunately, you can't see that the buyers were actually not very strong. If you consider how the sellers came down and how the buyers came up, the sellers were quite strong. And you can't see that the buyers really struggled before the sellers showed up and they were taken out. The buyers were taken out within this region right here. So at that point in time, that's when things did actually end up changing. So for this one for today, for as long as we're holding beneath the red SNR, the buyers is to try see whether we can get some selling opportunities. If you do get some buys, you can take them, but be well aware that the buying opportunities that you're taking are counters. So let's see what happens. Right now, the market seems to be getting into some sort of a range. It's not yet fully confirmed, but you can see that generally there's an SNR within here. So you could also find sellers coming in from within here, and you could look for your selling opportunities from here coming down. But let's see what happens. You could easily find these buyers pushing this market to the upside. If that does end up happening, you could find that price could come back in within here. I mean, after price broke this region to the downside, there wasn't a proper retest coming back in. So I'm thinking maybe there just might be a slight chance that the market might just come back in within here, and you could get some very good selling opportunity coming down off this region here. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Also remember the red SNR at the top. So in case price finds its way there, then at least also be ready for that as well. But remember that if price breaks and holds above that region to the upside, then at that point in time, we're no longer going to be looking for selling opportunities. We can't start to look for buys. So last but not least, we do have gold. Now for gold, yesterday the buyers was to try to see whether we could have gotten some buys. So even before we look at what's happening today, so you can see the three regions there that I had pointed out. The sellers had come down quite aggressively, like a pile of bricks during the Asian session. Then the market came in within here. We wanted to see the rollover phase happening and the big buyers showing up. So you can see that the buyers showed up, but not quite strong as how the sellers had come down. Can see some sort of a struggle that happened within here before the market went to the upside. I mean, if for whatever reason you got some buys there, you definitely did need to manage your trade within that region, because you can see that the market came back in within here. Then during the US session, you can see that the same sellers who had pushed down during the big boys rather, who had pushed down during the Asian session were back during the US session for another run. You can see that the market just sliced through this region, like a hot knife through butter. The buyers couldn't really do anything. So for this one, at that point, that's when the buyers did end up shifting. So for today, I'm going to be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities on this one. So let's see what happens. These are the three areas we will be watching out for. The market seems to have found some sort of a resistance, support region at the bottom down here. So you can see the market has probed, which tells us that there are definitely some buyers within this region here. So you could find that maybe there could be some short-term buying opportunities that could be happening, but you can't take a buy and target all the way high up within there. That might be a bit unrealistic, especially considering that the sellers came down. You might find that the buying opportunities, and I mean, if you're looking for the buys, then you're buying the pullback. You might find that the market might only come back in within this region here, or maybe even somewhere within here before the sellers come in. So, I mean, when it comes to counters, your money management needs to be very, very tight. Otherwise, if you don't end up having your money management tight and your expectations realistic, you could easily end up getting stopped out. You could get a good trade, but the finishing might not be as spectacular as you might imagine. So for this one, let's see what happens. It seems that the buyers could come in. They might come in till within here or here, but I really hope they come in at least still somewhere within this region here. At least if we do get the slowdown and everything happening within that region, then at least maybe we could get some good selling opportunities here. But also remember, there's also a possibility. Price can also break to the downside. And I mean, if these buyers within this region are taken out and get a nice slow pullback happening, then maybe we could also end up looking to try to see whether we could get sales. But right now, I think it's best to possibly just sit on your hands and just wait and see what does end up happening on that one. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of all the currency pairs and also the indices and the commodities. Of course, for the guys who joined in late, feel free to take note of that. That is what the watch list is going to be looking like today. So looking at the chat box, I'm not really seeing much, which is okay. I guess everything is perfectly clear, but I see Esther Kabiro there saying, good morning, team. Good morning back to you, Esther. Always glad to see you here. So I guess we can call it a session. I want to thank guys so much for making the time to be here with us. Like I always say, I know you're busy people, but you do take the time to be here with us, and we definitely don't take that for granted. Even the guys who are going to be watching this after, not necessarily here live, thank you so much for taking the time. If you're struggling in terms of your trading, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details are right there on the video description. Also, remember to send us your screenshots. I know there are very many silent listeners who've never sent in a screenshot or two, we will be ending the daily analysis on Friday. So if you do want to send in a screenshot before the year is over, before the sessions are over, make sure that you also do end up doing that, and also feel free to reach out to us, and we'll see how best we can end up helping you if you're struggling. Also, remember to like and subscribe. It does end up helping out our channel. Thank you so much for getting us to 4,000 subscribers. Let's keep going. There's still a lot of room for improvement. So I want to thank you guys so much. Hope to see you guys tomorrow. So as always, may the peeps be with you. God bless, and bye for now.